Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to George W. Norris Legislative Chamber. The afternoon session is about to reconvene. Senators, please record your presence. Roll call. Mr. Clerk, please record.
I have a quorum present, Mr. President.
Hey, Mr. Clerk. Any items for the record?
Mr. President, I have no items at this time.
Members, please come to order. We'll proceed with discussion. I'll recognize the clerk first, please.
Mr. President, Senator Hansen, I understand, Senator, you wish to withdraw your bracket motion
And the recommit, yes.
and the recommit as well.
Thank you.
So at this time, Mr. President, I have no amendments pending to Legislative Bill 1.
Thank you. Now proceeding to discussion. Senator Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor. Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, Nebraskans. I rise in continued opposition to LB1, and I'm also not too busy today to stand up for the trans and non-binary people in Nebraska. I'm not too busy. I have time. Senator Groney, who believes in science as long as it's in the Bible, to hear him tell it, has shared his bigotry here once again by talking about people as pronoun Nazis. And it goes without saying that people are not cattle, but to use his example of bulls and cows, there are more than just bulls and cows. And anyone who knows the difference between a bull and a steer and a heifer and a cow should understand somebody using he, she, or they. It's good etiquette to call people what they want to be called. It does nothing to you, period. If I say I'm a woman and you think I'm a man, you don't need to tell me that you think I'm a man. You can go write it in your diary. You can keep it to yourself. You can go tell your hetero wife over your hetero dinner while you're surrounded by photos of your children that you had to have sex to have. Because when you talk like this about people's pronouns and people's identities, you're the one obsessed with sex. You're the only one talking about it. Nobody else cares because you're the one who keeps bringing it up, period. A lot of people like Senator Groney say stuff like, I have no problem with LGBTQ people, but why do they have to talk about it so much? Nobody cares who you have sex with. But something that straight people often fail to understand is that for queer people, for people who aren't straight, we spend years oppressing our identity and oppressing a very fundamental part of ourselves, and that can be very traumatic. And a lot of us grow up coping and living with that trauma from our childhoods. And when we come out, we don't want to just quietly exist in the world. We want to celebrate ourselves just like everybody else by having a picture of your spouse at your desk or saying what your pronouns are, letting people know who you are. That's a gift. And I think that what we have to do is make up for lost time in our culture and make sure that there are no LGBTQ kids who have to live in shame the way we did, the way people in my generation did, and people before me. And that's a big part of the work that I do here and the value of the platform that I feel like we have here. It's not just about gender. It's not just about who we have sex with. And imagine that in reverse. Whenever someone heterosexual, which is all of you as far as you say, whenever you say something like, oh, I went out to a movie with a guy, I went on a date, my wife and I are having a picnic, we're expecting a baby, I have to go to a baby shower, there's a christening. We never say, stop talking about sex. We never say, we get it, you're hetero, stop rubbing it in our face, or, you and your baby talk, you're always talking about doing it. Like, that's ridiculous, but that's what you're saying about us. It's prurient and it's gross, and you're the only one talking about it. When LGBTQ people talk about their lives and normal stuff that happens in their lives, so many people sexualize it for no reason. And that's what Senator Groney is doing when he does this stuff. I'm glad that Senator Pansing Brooks brought up the pronoun Nazi stuff. It is so inaccurate and low and honestly anti-Semitic to draw any kind of comparison between kids who want to be referred by who they are and Nazis. Someone, especially a child, especially a young person saying, my name is this and these are my pronouns, they're giving you a gift. They're giving you the gift of allowing you to know them. They're being vulnerable. They're opening up to trust you, and to crap on that and turn around on them and say, you're pronoun Nazi, that's low down.
1 minute.
And it's the kids who hear this kind of stuff. And yeah, that is what makes them want to move out of Nebraska. and their parents too, and their friends, and anybody of a modern mindset in Nebraska who says, you know, we just moved here and we've got a great job here in Nebraska, but then I turn on the legislature and I hear some guy saying pronoun Nazi from Western Nebraska saying, why does anyone want to come live out here? So we can get some more senators and some more representation. Well, look at yourself in the mirror. Be nice. Don't worry about what people are doing. It doesn't affect you. Relax. Write it in your diary. Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you, Senator Hunt. Senator Erdman.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Good afternoon. I see maybe we have began to talk about LB1, which we should have been talking about a long time ago. But I want to share with you something that a wise lawyer shared with me just before we left today. He said, when the law is on your side, pound on the law. When the facts are on your side, pound on the facts. And when neither are on your side, pound on your desk. I'll let you guess who told me that. But I want to address something Senator Wayne had commented about, my comment about Senator Wayne playing games. I'd never told him he was playing games. Senator Wayne may be the most effective senator in this body getting things done. I told him that, and he knows that. But what I want to talk about, I want to change gears a little since we're not talking about the bill anyway. I want to talk about game and parks. They made a decision yesterday to advance Tim McCoy, who's the associate director. They did a so-called national search, and the final 3 candidates were all inside employees. Why do a national search when you know who you're going to hire? So I feel sorry for the landowners in the state of Nebraska, because we will continue to get what we've always gotten from Game and Parks. Nothing's going to change. And I have told them that if you want to make a culture change in Game and Parks, you are going to have to change the leadership. Because the current selection has been working there for 20 years. So every one of those people that reports to him are his friends. And so if he needs to make a change, put somebody in a different seat on the bus or not on the bus at all, it'll be very, very difficult, nearly impossible for him to do that. And so we will continue to get what we've always gotten, because that's a definition of stupidity. Keep doing what you've always done and expect different results. So Mr. McCoy will be the new director, and he will continue to move on with the same failed philosophies they've had for 20 years or more. And the landowners will continue to suffer under the damages that these wildlife cause. And when you ask them, how many wildlife do you have? They'll say, we're not sure, but we think it's this number or that number. And then when Mr. McCoy came in last year and testified on a bill I had to relocate the headquarters for Game and Parks, he testified it was going to cost $11.5 million to move Game and Parks headquarters to Sydney. That's the gentleman they chose to be the new director. So I'm not at all pleased that they made a decision such as they did, because I have served on enough boards to know that when you want to make a cultural change, you can't do that from within inside. But we'll see what happens. I'm going to be here 3 more years. It could be a tough 3 more years for Mr. McCoy and Game and Parks. Or it could be a lot easier if they pull up their big boy pants and learn how to deal with the landowners in a way that they need to be dealt with, instead of what they've always done. So to say this will be my last time to talk about Mr. McCoy is not correct. We will talk about him a lot. And we will continue to bring up Game and Parks until they fix the issues that they're dealing with. And I've seen the proposal of what they're going to try to do, and it makes no difference to anybody anytime soon. So we need to advance some bills out of the Natural Resources Committee and others that come to the floor, so we can put some teeth into what we're trying to do in getting control of Game and Parks. So all of you who are listening who have wildlife problems, I want to apologize in advance. Your problems are not going to be solved, and things are not going to get any better. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Erdman. Senator Wayne. Is Senator Wayne on the floor? We'll move on to Senator Michaela Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor. Good afternoon, colleagues. My pronouns are she, her, hers. It's an interesting thing to be brought up because I actually did want to talk to our executive board about the possibility of having my pronouns added to my nameplate on the floor. So I guess now everybody knows I would like to have my pronouns added to the nameplate on the floor, and actually my nameplate in my office as well. I think that it's a thing that is courteous to do to those that want to be identified by specific pronouns, to show allyship in that, because I also want to be identified by specific pronouns. And so I think it's good to have that level of transparency. I'm really grateful to Senator Hunt for her comments. And she's right. I've been talking about sex for days now. Heteronormative sex. But I do want to speak to the people of Nebraska who have had children not through heteronormative sex. There's more than one way to make a baby, and many women go through IVF to achieve that end. And I know of couples, same-sex couples, that also go through IVF, and when one of the moms, mommy or mother, is the carrier, I have had friends who have then also taken hormones that allowed them to also nurse their child. So the mother's room, I just want to be clear, is not to be a heteronormative sex place. It is to be a place for all women who have children that they need to care for in that way, and for all women who are expecting children, so that they have a space that is comfortable to take a break. I have been just overwhelmed by the outpouring from women in this body, in this building, in this community, and in this state. The level to which this rises is very high. I know that I'm viewed in this body a certain way. I can be brazen, I am bold, I am outspoken, and I am a mother. And I struggled with breastfeeding my first child. It was awful. And I cried a lot, and I blamed myself, and I asked, why couldn't I feed my child? Why couldn't I do that? Why was I having so much trouble? And it got easier with the other two kids. But when I look back on that time, it was stress. I was so stressed out about returning to work, about taking care of my child, about paying bills. And I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't have a dedicated space, and I didn't have paid leave. It was so stressful. And my daughter is fine. She is lovely. She's 7.5. But this is important. And if it weren't so important, we wouldn't have so many women speaking out about it. There are women who work in this body right now who were pregnant. There are women who work in this body right now who may be pregnant. Thank you. This is really important. It is so important that I gave up my office. And I didn't give up my office for theater. It is literally empty because I want this room back. And I want it back now. I want it back today. You've had a week to put it back. I'm sick of this chauvinism, masculinism, patriarchy. The women in this building, the women of this state deserve better, and everyone should be rising up. Every single senator should be rising up and demanding action. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Kavanaugh. Senator Lathrop.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, good afternoon. When this bill was up on general file, I intended to turn my light on, and the debate lasted so short that it was over before I even had a chance to turn my light on. This on general file moved in about 15 minutes. I was surprised by that because this is a significant change to the congressional map. Today, this has been up here. We've talked about a lot of different things, each of them important in their own way, but we haven't really talked about LB1 and the map that we have, and specifically as it relates to the 2nd Congressional District. I have strong opposition to the way the 2nd Congressional District has been placed onto this map, and therefore with LB1. Let me talk about and start with the resolution. We've talked about this resolution a lot. LB1 or LR 134 said that we may maintain the core of the district and shall maintain communities of interest. And historically, Douglas County has been the core of the district and Sarpy County. Senator McAllister and I have talked about his father representing CD2 at a time when it went north and south. But as time has gone on and as we've redistricted in this body, the congressional maps, CD2 has been Douglas County and Sarpy County. And there's a logic to that. They have a community of interest. As my friends from Sarpy County have said during the debate, during this special session, this is the fastest growing district. And it's growing not in rural interests, but it is growing in urban interests. People are developing the land in Sarpy County. They're building shopping centers. They're building houses, apartments. It looks more and more like Douglas County does, and less like a rural district, although certainly there are some rural parts of Sarpy County not yet developed. For us to maintain the community of interest, an urban area, we should be taking Douglas and Sarpy to round out the total amount of population needed for a congressional district. Including Saunders County serves one purpose. They are not a community of interest as much as we like the folks in Saunders County. They are a rural area. Placing them into the 2nd Congressional District is done for one purpose, and that's a partisan purpose. It's a partisan purpose. When we were talking about Sarpy County earlier, many people stood up and said, we can't split it. We can't split it. Well, here we are. It's split. No one's standing up and talking about it. Saunders County doesn't have anything in common with Douglas. It doesn't have anything in common with Sarpy. It makes no sense other than to recognize the sole purpose is to make it more difficult for an individual from the Democratic Party to prevail, because we've gone to Saunders County to find apparently a better population of partisans than we would by rounding out CD2 with the balance of Sarpy County. And it is for those reasons that I stand strongly opposed to LB1. I will be a red light on this, and I would encourage your opposition to LB1 as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Lathrop. Senator McKinney for motion.
Mr. Lieutenant Governor, I move to advance LB1 to ENR for engrossing.
Record vote has been requested. Machine vote. Those in favor of advancing the bill vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted care to? Record, please.
29 ayes, 10 nays on the advancement of LB1.
LB1 advances. Next bill, please.
Mr. President, Legislative Bill 3 on select files. Senator McKinney, I have enrollment and review amendments, first of all.
Senator Kenny for motion.
Mr. Lieutenant Governor, I move to adopt the ENR amendments to LB3.
You've heard the motion to adopt the ENR amendments. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The ENR amendments are adopted. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, the First Amendment to the bill is by Senator Matt Hansen.
Senator Van Hansen, you recognized to open on your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. And before anybody rushes up to my side of my desk, I will pull this at the end of my speech. Colleagues, I am intending this to be the last time I speak today, but everything I said before lunch stands, and people of the state of Nebraska, this should absolutely be a process that, having now seen up front, shouldn't be in our hands. We are balancing the threat of sine die, the balance of the threat of maybe a court case. We're balancing the threat of so many things that I don't not think we're getting pretty maps out of this. I don't think we're getting necessarily even, anyway, I won't go into it. What I'm saying here is we have the ability to really draw a line in the sand and blow it up. And there's people willing to do that. There's people not willing to do that. So in the effort to get our constituents maps that they can at least understand and get a look at, I am pulling my amendment, floor amendment 1, and I'll pull my other amendment as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Amendments withdrawn. Thank you, Senator Hansen. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, the next amendment I have, Senator Linehan, AM 43.
Senator Linehan recognized to open on AM 43.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, colleagues. So AM 43 makes most of the adjustments in Lancaster County, which I think there have been several discussions about on the floor this morning. It makes a couple of changes in other districts, including in Grand Island, where we failed to bring in a group of a minority district, a minority precinct that should be in Senator Aguilar's district, and now it is. So that's a change there. We made a change between 4 and 20 because the deviations were out of whack, and made a change in my district where I took back the ridges and then gave up a little part, took back the ridges from 4, gave a little part of Elkhorn to 4, so that kept the deviations right. I think there was another change between 4 and 20. I think Boys Town went back to 4 and it had gone to 20. So they are basically just changes around the edges, except for Lincoln or Lancaster County, which I think you've all talked about for the last 2 or 3 hours. So that's what's represented with this amendment, and I would appreciate your green vote on AM 43. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Linehan. Any discussion on AM 43? Senator Wayne.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, and I just want to make sure people are clear that the process in which we went through on this had everything to do with LR 134 and preserving the core. In addition to preserving the core, it was about communities of interest. And so the two ways we informally have defined preserving the core was areas of the core, areas of the district that have been there historically, but the other part of the communities of interest, which is kind of commingled, is we had a bright line throughout Nebraska's history, starting back to 1800s all the way to 1921, where there's a big shift, was county lines. County lines seem to have defined who we are and what are cores and communities of interest. So while county lines historically may have shifted from here, I mean, not county lines, but legislative districts have shifted here and there from a legislative history standpoint, county lines have been true because it's in our Constitution, and the word is practicable, and there isn't a clear definition from the court of what is practicable, but what we try to do is preserve those community interests and those cores. So I'm going to talk for a little bit about some of the maps, particularly in South Pete County and then in some of the rural areas, deviations that go into some different areas. When you look at those deviations, those deviations, whether it's 48, 47, 43, 42, 44, those deviations, including 38, is primarily to preserve the county lines and to preserve what we deemed communities of interest, which we have defined in committee and through conversations. There isn't a written document around communities of interest and preserving the core, sucked in to combine both to be county lines. So if you look at the Douglas County area, you'll notice that anywhere where there is a, what you would consider over a 2 deviation is, or whether in either way, negative or positive, had everything to do with the county lines. And I'm going to give you one example just so people down the road can understand what this means. That's why I pushed my light again. So if you look at Senator Hansen's district and you look at Senator Walls's, which is Senator Hansen 16, I can't see his light, 15? 15, no, Senator Walls is 15, Senator Hansen is 16. You'll see pretty much a -4 in both of those, or +4 and -4. I can easily, and the committee can easily fix that, but that would require another county line to be split. And looking at court cases and looking at what the court has determined as county lines being practical, and looking at what the committee has defined as preserving the core and communities of interest as defined by county line, that is why that has stayed. We had great conversations, Senator, or not Vice Chair, but I called you that again, you probably would have ran over and slapped me this time. Chairwoman Linehan and I had great conversations over the last week resolving this, but we're trying to find what the courts have laid out for us, which is preserve the county line. That would have been a very easy fix. But when I say easy, it would have divided up communities. And that's what we're trying not to do by the county line, is divide up the community and keep the community of interest the same. How do I know that? Because my county, or my legislative district, District 13, bumps up to Senator Hansen's, which is District 16, and there is a difference. There is a difference from my community in Douglas County and when you cross over. And you can feel that district as soon as Knoxville and Fort Calhoun. That's why it's important that we keep those county lines. Same when you look at South Sarpy. When you look at South Sarpy, you'll see right below the county line, there's a negative deviation. The reason that deviation is there is because we didn't want to cross over into Douglas County. We heard a lot of conversations on LB1 and LB3 about crossing county lines, particularly in Sarpy. And that is one of the reasons why you look at Senator McDonald's legislative district, District 5, and the ones below it, you can easily probably put those together, but those are different communities and those are different cores. And that is the reason why we did not split, or we did not cross over from Douglas County. It is truly just about communities of interest and preserving the core. So I just want to give people a clear understanding, and those who will read it 10 years from now, keeping county lines to us help preserve the core and keep the communities of interest, which follows the LR 134. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Wayne. Any further discussion on AM 43? I see none. Senator Linehan recognizes closed. She waives closing. Question for the bodies is the adoption of AM 43. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote no. Have you all voted here too? Record, please.
32 ayes, 2 nays on adoption of Senator Linehan's amendment.
AM 43 has been adopted. Mr. Clerk.
Senator Clements would move to amend AM 40.
Senator Clements recognizes AM 40.
Thank you, Mr. President. A map has been handed out to you showing on the front page legislature statewide LEG 21-23001. And this is a map my staff and I and Senator Bostelman's staff have been working on. This is what we preferred to do, but I want to let you know we're going to talk about this, but I do intend to withdraw this amendment when we're done discussing some of the ideas that we came up with. So I did support Senator Linehan's amendment, and I'm satisfied with that. Will be what LB3 becomes. But I did a lot of work on the alternative to moving a district, the map 23001. Well, first of all, I do want to thank the Redistricting Committee for all your hard work and working with us as we've been trying to figure out a way to keep all the core districts. This map would have preserved the cores statewide. It did not move any district. But as we all know, there's more population in Douglas and Lancaster County, and it does change boundary lines toward the east, from the west, from the north to the south, from the south to the north, and toward Lincoln and Omaha. But it was just mentioned about county line splits. Our current districts that we represent, there are 9 counties split. The map that I've got here as an amendment had 11 county splits. Very much the same as what we currently have, was not making a lot of splits. And there is only one city split. Holdridge was going to be having to be split to equalize districts. But outside of Douglas, Sarpy, and Lancaster, only the city of Holdridge would be split. And so we worked hard to have a map that had very few county splits and only one city split. From a selfish point of view, this map would have had Legislative District 2, which I represent, would have stayed in southern Sarpy, in Sarpy County. And I would not have been moving into Lincoln and bothering the people on the edge of Lincoln like is going to evidently happen. And I'm sorry to be losing about 14,500 people I've been representing for about 4.5 years in Sarpy County. I thank them for their support. And I've just, in the process, we wanted to have this ready earlier, but it's been a lot of work to get it fine-tuned. So we tried to meet the criteria with compact districts and no county splits and city splits. And so we did not have it ready by the time LB3 was introduced last week. And I didn't really, but I still wanted to have it on the record for people to see that there was an alternative that you may think it has some flaws in it. Of course, it does move. A lot of different people had to move their districts' lines, had to move toward the east. And so it does change districts from what they are now, but so does the LB3 map that we've already amended. And so it was, just wanted to thank my staff, Senator Bostelman's staff. They did spend many hours, especially wanting to preserve the cores of all districts, preserve rural districts, so we didn't have to pick somebody to have to be kicked off the island, as they say. But I am just appreciative of the opportunity to present this as an alternative and to get it on the record. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Clements. Discussion on AM 40. Senator Urban.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Good afternoon. I was remiss when I made those comments about pounding on your desk. That was told me by Senator John Kavanaugh. There you go, Senator. I would like to talk about Senator Clements and Senator Bosselman's bill. ABC, what we refer to it, it exactly did what I suggested that the redistricting committee do when they started the process. And it kept all the core districts in place, and it allowed the urban districts to exceed the average 40,000 people by a small percentage, and the other districts remaining would be slightly under. The rural part of the state is losing representation, and that may be just fine for those people who live in the east. But it's difficult for rural people to get involved in our government, and the more seats that we move to the east, the more difficult it becomes. Moving District 36 seat to Sarpy County was not necessary. This map proves that it wasn't necessary, and I appreciate what Senator Bossman and Clements did and their staff. They need to be commended for the number of hours they put in. So when we get ready to vote on LB3 and the AM40 and LB3, I'll be a no, and I'll be a no till the end because this didn't have to happen. So at some point in time, the people who have the most votes got to start considering those people who have less representation as time goes by. It's difficult for us in the West to get involved in government because we keep losing representation, and we get the situation that's such that it costs a lot of money to come and get involved in government and testify. And so we continue to move those districts, and as representation continues to move east, and the number one industry in the state has less representation every time we do this. This was an opportunity for us to do it right. We did it wrong. We should have started with dividing up those districts, and irregardless of what the red or blue or whatever it is in the districts is, divide that 1,098,000 in those three big counties and then move on to the rest of them. But that won't happen because that's a common sense approach, and common sense is not common anymore. So I'll be a red on all of this. I appreciate the fact that they're making some adjustments to Senator Clements' district and Senator Geist's district. I understand that that's an improvement, and I appreciate that. But we did a disservice to the people in Dawson and Custer counties. But those people won't be forgotten. They'll be well represented with the new representatives they will have, at least for now. Who knows who will get elected. But this was a mistake. And I'll believe this was a mistake and never change my mind. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Urban. Senator Merman.
Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor. I do like the map here that's presented by Senator Clements and Senator Bosselman, much better on the legislative districts. The thing I like about it the best is it does preserve the core of the greater Nebraska districts as much as possible. There's less county splits, and it makes all of the districts in, or at least I think most all of the districts in greater Nebraska more compact, and it is easier for the senators to know their constituents, and of course preserving the core does make it easier for the constituents to know their senator, the senator that they've known for the last well, up to 8 years, will most likely continue to be their senator. So I think that's a great thing. On a personal level, District 38, it does make the district much more compact, and I'm within about 50 miles of any point in the district. And the district is a large part of it was in the district previously, and the part that is added is, of course, more compact and closer. I do there are disadvantages to splitting Holdridge, but there's also advantages. Holdridge actually would have 2 senators representing them in that case rather than 1. So splitting the city can be good or bad. And of course, with the map that probably will be adopted, I will gain 3 counties to the west and lose most of 3 counties that I've already represented. But I know there's great people in those 3 counties that I will be gaining, and I do appreciate that, and I will represent them to the best of my ability. Like I said, it'll be a little more of a challenge because they are further away, but I will do that, and just wanted to voice my support for this map, and just the way things turned out probably won't end up being this map, but it does have some great advantages, mainly the compactness and closeness of the districts and keeping everything together. Thank you. Lieutenant.
Thanks, Senator Merman. Senator Bosman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Take a few minutes to talk a little bit about the map that Senator Clement's office and my office worked on. I want to thank Dan and Riley, Senator Clements, and Mark for the work they've done on this. I can tell you there was, as I said before, easily 100 hours put in on this map. It wasn't taken lightly. We listened to a lot of concerns a lot of people had, was on the floor. A lot of things senators said on the floor and when we met with them, we addressed a lot of those in this map. But really one thing that I think we always need to remember in the body, and I mentioned this last time on general file, is agriculture is our #1 economic driver in the state. Agriculture. Western Nebraska is far, far different than eastern Nebraska. And the intent of our map was to keep everybody whole, if you will, keep those cores, make sure western Nebraska, central Nebraska had a voice. So we've taken that voice away because if you're in the Sandhills, or if you're in southwestern part of the state, or if you're in the southeastern part of the state or northeastern part of the state, I tell you what, the soils are different, the water is different, the rainfall's different. Your life is different. I have friends that live out in Gordon, Nebraska. Their driveway to their house is longer than some of your wider, if you will, than some of your districts. So you've got so many city blocks that's your district. They've got, those senators, say Senator Brewer's got counties. 10, 15 miles to get to the road, it's not unusual. So how are those people going to be represented in this body, just like the people on the eastern side of the state? So what our map did was try to provide those core districts, keep that representation there as best we could. Senator Clements talked about that a bit as how we did that. And we thought we had a good map. And we do have a good map. And a lot of people, I think, support. In fact, 29 people at one point in time supported it. But we understand and we realize Redistricting Committee has done their work, has done a lot of work, and I appreciate that. And I do. I'm not saying that lighthearted because we've put the time on the maps, on the computer. We've sat there and looked at how do you move this population so that this district fits with this district that affects the other district, because when you touch one, you don't touch one, you touch 3 or 4. It's not easy. So this is our opportunity just to speak a little bit on this, on the amendment, AM 40, and have it on the record, have it filed. And we appreciate that opportunity. But I also understand Redistricting Committee has done some good work that needed to be done, and I respect that. And I think Senator Clements and I both feel that the map that we have is a good map, but Redistricting Committee has done what they needed to do, and we respect that for the time they have. Just remember, as we go forward in this body, in the years to come, in our sessions to come, we've got vast differences across the state and the needs of the people. And we need to make sure that those needs are recognized and are heard. And we need to make sure we have senators in those areas, representatives in those areas that can bring those concerns, those needs, those wants to this body. So as we go over, if you will, the next 10 years, for those of us here the next 3 years or more that you're here in the body, for those new senators who will be coming in, you need to remember the importance of agriculture in this state, what agriculture brings to this state, what those men and women that are farming and ranching bring to this state. And it's not to take away from anybody that lives in the cities at all. Omaha greater area will have 18 senators. Lincoln has 7 or more. So if you count Kearney and Grand Island as cities as well, it's that many less. So rural Nebraska, outstate Nebraska.
That's time, Senator.
Thank you.
Thanks,
They're
Senator
very
Bossman.
important.
Senator Groney.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was one of the 5 who voted against LB3, I believe, the first time. I would ask everybody to overlay this map over what the committee came up with and see how more concise it is, it's amazing. It keeps everybody together. You know, I never thought of this, but I own some land in Custer County. Custer County's land and the way it lays fits better with Valley, Sherman, Howard, Greeley, Wheeler than it does to the west. It's like one of those climate lines, custom lines. It's a different breed of cowboy over there. Was thinking outside the box when Senator Clements and Bossman put Custer County into 41. If you look at 44, it's more precise. It ties into the Republican River Basin. And 38, same way, it blocks it into 2. It doesn't draw a major county from the north. It's in the Platte Valley into 44. I think we really ought to reconsider this thing and take a look at this and let the egos go away from the committee if there's any. They worked hard, but there is a better ideal outside of the committee. We got to live with this for 10 years. All of these people do. This map fits. This map, and it's, as far as Lancaster and Douglas County, it fits it. I mean, if you wanted to tweak those and blend the 2 maps in the urban areas with the rural that Senator Clements and Bossman came up with, I think it's the way to do it. And I will continue not to support LB 3 as written because it's wrong. As far as my district, you haven't heard me talk about my district much. Whichever that district grew in geographical area, it fit us because we were right in the heart of that line between the sand hills and the hard ground to the south of the Platts, between the Platte and the Republican. But, and I believe the people are pretty like-minded there. There's nobody going to be left out. Just a comment, I missed the vote on LB1. I guess I've been here 7 years. I thought select file was a voice vote. And I would have thought it had been a courtesy if when somebody wanted a recorded vote, somebody would have called the House so that all of us could have voted. That was a quick vote. When the normal practice has changed, I would have hoped one of my friends would have thought, let's call the House, but it didn't happen because people want to get out of here. But there was 2 or 3 of us didn't get a chance to vote because we took a break from the floor to attend to other business. Anyway, just in the future, if that happens, I would appreciate somebody I'll do it if I'm here, call the House. Also, I guess I owe an apology to Senator Gregor. I said Gregor instead of Garrett. All you people out there, don't send him nasty emails that he did not. He was the deciding vote not to do return us to winner take all. He wasn't even dreaming about being a senator. He didn't have that nightmare yet. So anyway, I wanted to correct that. But please overlay this map over the LB3 as it is now. It's a better map. Absolutely a better map. It fits cultures, it fits communities, it kept everybody core in place. It works. It gives everybody a sense that they don't have a loss. No community has a loss because they still remain pretty much within their geographic areas. So anyway, I'll support AM 40. And I have a hard time LB3. I just don't like what it did to some of the rural areas, how it divided us in different, where we belong together in certain philosophies and issues, such as water. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Groney. Senator Erdman.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Looks like I'm last in the queue, and I had every intention of calling a question, and all of my friends, both of them, said don't do that. So I did it. But Senator Groney explained it quite well. I thought he was very accurate in his description. I appreciated what Senator Bosselman had to say. We will deal with this change for 10 years. And we'll get what we continue to get. And it's amazing to see the shift that is happening. And most amazing, it didn't have to. That's the part that bothers me. So this is going to pass. I'll predict it'll be 47-2. So maybe 46-3. But I don't know what the over and under is on that, Senator Wayne. But I will not vote for this. This is a mistake. So if you in the media want to report that as a statement that I made, I would just be okay with it. This is a wrong thing to do. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Erdman. Nothing further on the bill. Senator Clements, you were going to withdraw AM 40, is that correct?
I'd like to make a comment before I withdraw, may I?
You may.
May I close?
You may.
Well, conventional wisdom said that there were 50,000 more people in the East since this census, and conventional wisdom said that means you had to move a district. But I wanted to, my staff is a staff that says if something, you tell me something's impossible, they'll show you that it is possible. I didn't want to be on the redistricting committee, and I wasn't on, and I'm wondering now if I could have made a difference, but I do thank them for their work. But I think it does show us that rural Nebraska needs growth. It needs jobs, needs housing, it needs broadband to try to retain the population. And I hope that as we have some stimulus money coming and some good revenues, that we will target Western Nebraska and try to maintain the population that we have there with those good people, so that 10 years from now, what we've done doesn't happen again. And so thank you for your consideration and for the opportunity to show an alternative. With that, I withdraw my amendment.
Thanks, Senator Clements. AM 40 is withdrawn. Mr. Clerk, I understand there's nothing further on the bill. Is that correct?
I have nothing further, Mr. President.
Senator McKinney.
Mr. Lieutenant Governor, I move to advance LB3 to ENR for engrossing.
Record vote's been requested. It's been a request to place the House on a call. The question is, shall the House go on a call? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Record, please.
27 ayes, 3 nays to place the House under call.
House under call. All senators, please return to your desks and check in. The House is under call. Senators Wayne and Vargas, please return to the chamber and check in. House is under call. Senator Vargas, you need on the floor. Call's on the House. House under call. I'm sorry, Senator Groney.
Roll call. Oh, it's a record vote. Sorry.
We're told that Senator Vargas is on his way. We'll wait. All unexcused members are now present. The question for the body is the advance of LB3 to ENR for engrossing. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted care to? Record, please.
37 ayes, 6 nays, 38 ayes, 6 nays on the advancement of the bill.
LB3 advances. I raise the call. Next bill, please.
Mr. President, to LB6, Senator McKinney, I have no amendments to the bill.
Senator McKinney for motion.
Mr. Lieutenant Governor, I move to advance LB6 to ENR for engrossing.
Members, you heard the motion to advance the bill.
Could you tell her to what she, just tell her what
Machine vote's been requested on the motion to advance LB6 to ENR for engrossing. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted care too? Record, please.
44 ayes, 1 nay on the advancement of LB6.
The bill advances. Next bill, please.
LB5, Senator McKinney, I have no amendments to the bill.
Senator McKinney for motion.
Mr. Lieutenant Governor, I move to advance LB 5 to ENR for engrossing.
Machine votes have been requested. The question is the advance of LB5 to ENR for engrossing. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted care to? Record, please.
40 yeas, 3 nays on the advancement of LB 5.
LB5 advances. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, next bill, LB 8, no ENRs. Senator Linehan would move to amend AM 41.
Senator Linehan, AM 41, please.
Thank you, Mr. Board of Regents. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, colleagues. So this is the Board of Regents. We realized yesterday we had a problem with deviations, so we moved District 1, which is in Lincoln, further enlarged that district so the deviations weren't out of whack so much, and everyone is still in, the current incumbents are all in their district. So that's the only change in this from what we passed on Friday. So I would ask for your green vote on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Linehan. Discussion at AM 41. Senator Michaela Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I just got myself in the queue because I wasn't aware that there was an amendment pending on this, and we are moving so quickly through these bills, which is why I keep asking for a machine vote, because I don't think we even know what bills we're voting on, what the numbers are. And I know I'm not, a number comes up and I'm like, oh, which one is that? So this feels very rushed, and I get it because it's almost 3 o'clock and we're all tired of each other. But I'm just talking now to give you all a chance to look and see, make sure you're all okay with this map. I know we've done a lot to the Board of Regents, and I honestly, I'm not even sure if we already voted on the State Board of Education or not. I haven't had a chance to look. I know that we made a big change this session because the two maps always were aligned and mirrored one another, and now they no longer do. And so I guess I'm just wanting to make sure that everyone has the time to do, your due diligence on here. Of all the things that I was told about today that there were going to be amendments on, this was not one. So not that I have any issue with it, Senator Linehan, I just wasn't aware of it. And so I'm just taking time now to catch up on it. Senator Linehan, would you yield to a question?
Senator Linehan, would you yield, please?
Certainly.
Can you just tell me which two districts this impacts so I can look at that more quickly?
Okay, wait a minute. Which two districts?
Well, you said it moved.
The Regent?
Yes.
1 and 5.
1 and 5. Okay, thank you so much. And it just moves one a little bit further east and to even out even out the deviation.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. I just wanted to make sure I knew what we were handling today. That's really all I wanted to know and the only reason I got up today. So thank you. I yield the remainder of my time.
Thank you, Senator Kavanaugh. See no other members wishing to speak. Senator Linehan recognizes close. Waives closing. Question for the body is the adoption of AM 41. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted here to? Record, please.
42 ayes, 1 nay on the adoption of Senator Linehan's amendment.
AM 41 has been adopted.
I have nothing further, Mr. President.
Senator McKinney,
Mr. Lieutenant Governor, I move to advance LB 8 to ENR for engrossing.
machine votes have been requested. Question for the body's advance of LB 8 to ENR for engrossing. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
43 ayes, 2 nays, Mr. President, on the advancement of the bill.
LB 8 advances. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, LB 7. I have no ENR. Senator Linehan would move to amend with AM 42.
Senator Linehan, AM 42, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. AM 42, so I think Senator Kavanaugh already mentioned, historically, these maps, Regents and Education, have been alike. And what has happened since I think they're probably at the end of the day, they weren't previous legislatures, ended up with both had the possibility of electing 4 members from Douglas County. So now they're down to 3. And we did that in a rather rush last week. So when we looked at it this weekend, we had separated. One of the requests was to keep Grand Island, Kearney, and Hastings all in the same district. We have done that with this amendment. And we also, it's more compact and looks better, and the deviations are better. And we managed to still keep all the incumbents in their districts. So I can answer any other questions, but with that, I ask for your green vote on AM 42.
Thank you, Senator Linehan. Senator Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor. Again, I am just rising to give everyone a chance to play catch up if they needed to, because I know I do on these amendments and these bills. And I went through and I looked. So we only have one left after this, and I looked up. It is the appropriations, just so everybody knows that that's the next one that's coming. Because we don't typically, for those at home, we have an agenda on our desks, and we typically have the bills listed in order. And so we really know what's coming up. But right now we just have bills as ordered. And so it's just kind of things are coming up on the board, and there's a lot of moving pieces happening here today. And I just, again, want to make sure that everyone is aware of what we are doing and when we are doing it. So I don't know that I have any issue with this particular map, so I will yield the remainder of my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kavanaugh. Senator Clements.
Thank you, Mr. President. In my earlier presentation, I forgot one thing that I was going to present, and it was another reason for not moving a district to east, to Sarpy or Douglas, and that's Nebraska Constitution, page 10, Article 3, Section 5. 1 member of the legislature shall be elected from each such district. The basis of apportionment shall be the population excluding aliens, as shown by the next preceding federal census. And Senator Groney had passed out a chart showing the registrations, and it appears that a lot of the growth to the east is non-citizens, but our census numbers that we have doesn't split those the way our Constitution required. I think that was another reason I had for not moving a district to the east, that their overrepresentation to the east by non-citizens, which should not have been in our census, was a problem. That's all I had. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Clements. Senator Groney.
I support LB 7. Thank you, Senator Clements. I want to make sure everybody understands that immigrants are who we are. somebody asked me, why would you be concerned if these undocumented workers or visitors, whatever you want to call them, to a country are counted? I said, imagine a student coming to and staying with you, and you accept them as a guest, and then the patriarch or the matriarch, I get those pronouns right, or nouns, passed away, and they said, well, no, this immigrant lives in the house, so they should share an inheritance of the house. That's what we do when we count visitors to our shores. They're not citizens, exchange students. They're counted, and you want to say one vote, one person, they're represented back in their home country because they're still citizens there, and they're also counted here. So anyway, it is something that needs to be looked at in the future. On LB 7, I really don't like the fact that we don't have identical maps. I know why it was done. I support LB 7. But to say we draw lines in odd shapes because of protecting an office of an official who already is elected for that district is the definition of gerrymandering. It was a governor from Massachusetts back in the 1700s or 1800s or something who did it. But when you draw lines, not because of to keep a cohesive group together so that the same politician can be reelected, that is not what we're supposed to be doing here. But anyway, that said, it's been done, and the biggest thing was to not have one community, Douglas County, dominate half the board of two major elected boards in our state. So that's why I will support LB 7, but I don't know what a judge would say if you showed him to a elected official and he'd say which one of these maps is correct. It should be the same if it was drawn correctly. But we do what we do to get the results we need, and that's called politics. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Groney. Senator Wayne.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not going to respond super long to this, but I think when we read the Constitution, we should start with the whole sentence. And when you read the whole sentence, it says excluding aliens based off of federal census. Not to surprise anybody, I don't want anybody to be shocked, but we stopped asking that question, so we don't have the data. That's why the committee didn't even consider it. And that's why, if you recall, in 2018, when Senator Moranti introduced a bill on it, it never got out of committee, and I was on the committee, because there's no way to get that data except for what conservatives call biased sources. So there's no way to get that data unless you want to use somebody other than the federal government, which actually goes against our Constitution. So just make sure we read the whole paragraph and the whole sentence when we talk about that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Wayne. Senator McKinney.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief as well. First, I want to say, Senator Groney, my ancestors did not migrate to the United States. So we're all not immigrants or ancestors of immigrants. I also will say that if not for immigrant populations, there probably would be a strong argument from the body that there should probably be an additional senator east of, in the eastern part of the state, but I'm not here to make that argument. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator McKinney. Senator Linehan, you recognize to close on AM 42. She waives closing. Question for the body's adoption of AM 42. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted carried too? Record, please.
40 yeas, 1 nay on the adoption of Senator Linehan's amendment.
AM 42 has been adopted.
I have nothing further, Mr. President.
Nothing further on the bill. Senator McKinney.
Mr. Lieutenant Governor, I move to advance LB 7 to ENR for engrossing.
Machine vote's been requested. The question is the advance of LB 7 to ENR for engrossing. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
40 yeas, 2 nays on the advancement of LB 7.
LB 7 advances.
Mr. President, Legislative Bill 14, Senator, I have no amendments to the bill.
Kevin, I got to put a motion on the floor first. Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. Lieutenant Governor, I move to advance LB 14 to ENR for engrossing.
That's a debatable motion. Senator Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor. Colleagues, this bill, as I mentioned the last go round, is authorizing the funds for the special session. I have decided that I am not going to vote for this today because I don't think that this body is deserving of those funds so long as we are marginalizing women in this building. I think that it is inappropriate and disgusting that this hasn't been addressed and that many of you remain silent on the issue. This is really important, not just to me, but to your constituents and your staff. And so I don't think that it's right, and I don't feel right about supporting paying ourselves for the time that we're here if we aren't doing our job. And if we aren't taking care of working mothers in this building, then we're definitely not doing our job. We are failing. We are failing at our job. And I, for one, I can't live with that. I can't stomach that. I'm not voting for this. On a separate note, I wanted to note that the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services posted 4 days ago on Facebook, on a week-to-week basis in Nebraska, people who are not fully vaccinated are being hospitalized with COVID-19 at rates 6 times higher than fully vaccinated people. We have a pod. I don't think anybody knows if it's ever sterilized or clean. We have a pandemic. Women are supposed to go to that unsterilized, unclean spot to take care of their babies. Every time I think that this legislature couldn't disappoint me more, you all just rise to the occasion. This should be every single person's priority, and most of you don't even care. The apathy for working moms is abhorrent, but I realize that you don't care. So thank you. I yield the remainder of my time.
Thanks, Senator Kavanaugh. Senator McAllister. We're not voting yet, Senator. Senator Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor. I want to say something on this topic too, because we're getting closer to the end of this process, and I've been meaning to speak about the mother's room, but as we talk about other things, it just keeps getting lower and lower and lower on my, notes about my comments. And I did want to get some comments on the record for my constituents and for the people of Nebraska before we close this process today. This speaks to a theme that I've talked about a lot in this body and in this special session of not listening to the people who are affected by the policies we make when we vote to make those policies. When we advance LB1 and LB3, we're doing so over the objections of most of the testifiers who came to speak in the listening sessions and the hearings that we had on these bills. And when we do things like remove the mother's room, it's always a bunch of of men, in power saying, oh, no one's really using it. People don't really need it, over the objections of people who are affected by this, who use the room, who do need it, who it's there for, saying, no, we still want it. We need it. We use it. And it's something that we need to have in this building for everybody who comes into the people's house. We're not listening to the people affected by the policies we make when we make them. And last time I was on the mic talking about this, which I think was last Wednesday, Senator Hughes had the last word that day. And I've been thinking about it for a week. He said, I would like to remind Senator Hunt that we have a pod. And, we got rid of the mother's room to make an office for a man, which was funded by a grant from a foundation that now, we could be in violation of that grant, of course, and have to pay all the money back. But don't worry, Senator Hunt, I would like to remind you that we have a pod. Well, I want to talk about that pod. When we started when Senator Michaela Cavanaugh started the conversation about needing a mother's room here in the Capitol, getting a pod was never a solution that anybody was really looking for, that anybody was really asking for. These pods are appropriate for football games, for, festivals. To me, it's like a porta potty. And for that reason, I would never use one of these pods to breastfeed my baby in my workplace. I would maybe use it as at a football game if there was like no other option for me. But to me, going into a porta potty shack, basically, in the public mailroom in the Capitol building, which is what this is, if you can get into it, if you can get your app or get the right key or the password to even get in there, if it's sterilized, if it's ever been cleaned, going into that pod in the public mailroom, you might as well just be holding up a neon sign that says, I'm going to go squeeze my boob. Because that's what it is to people when you walk in there. It doesn't give you the privacy and the comfort and security that a mother's room really calls for. It's like a menstrual tent. It's like saying, women who have this condition, you can go over here and be separate in this place that we don't even know is clean or if it's sterile. If Senator Hughes intends to reinstate the mother's room, he should talk about that on the record, because that's how the public is learning about the news around this and what it is that we're doing. Senator Hughes sent an email earlier today saying, don't worry, we're working on it. We hope to solve the problem. But we just keep trying to reinvent the wheel, whether it's all the amendments that we're doing for a legislative redistricting bill that we passed on Friday that we didn't really need to change, or whether it's figuring out what to do with the mother's room. The solution is easy. A woman, Senator Michaela Cavanaugh, made a sacrifice by giving up her office to solve the problem, so the man who took the mother's room for an office can use hers instead. Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor. She took the steps to solve the problem, and the men are saying there's nothing they can do, and that they hope to look at the issue and they hope to solve the problem, and they really take it seriously, and they know it's important to the women of Nebraska. When the solution's right in front of you, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's really easy. So I would encourage the man who has taken the mother's room for an office to take Senator Cavanaugh's office going forward, while Senator Hughes finds his magical solution, and then we can get the people of Nebraska who need to take care of their infants back into the room where they can do that safely and securely. Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor.
Thanks, Senator Hunt. Senator Michaela Cavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor. It was brought to my attention, colleagues, that this doesn't only pay for our reimbursement, but also staff's reimbursements and travel. So I will not be opposing it because that is unfair to the people that work in this building. However, if the mother's room is not reinstated by the time that we bring this on final reading, I will have an amendment to bring this back to select file to strike our portion of the reimbursement, because we should not be getting paid anything if we aren't doing our job. I've been rereading, there was some floor debate over the mother's room back in 2019. And I won't bore you with the conversation because it's the 2019 all over again. It's the exact same thing. And I don't get you all. I do not get you. I do not understand your politics. You will fight tooth and nail to make sure that a woman cannot make her own healthcare choices, but then you will say all kinds of outrageous anti-science things all of the time, talking about your rights. You want to take my rights away, but you want to preserve your rights. And then you take my rights away, but then don't give me a space that is necessary to be a mother. It is so beyond hypocritical and bananas. Don't tell me that you are pro-life. All of you that campaign on, get up here, use your bully pulpit and say that you are pro-life, not a one of you has stood up and said that this should be reinstated. Not a one of you has replied to Senator Hughes's email and said, this is an immediate need. But you're pro-life, and I'm supposed to believe you? I think you're a pack of liars. I walk the walk, I talk the talk. I do what I say I'm going to do. I am who I am, and I've never pretended to be anything else. I am passionate about mothers in this state. I am passionate about minority mothers. I am passionate about poor mothers. I am passionate about rich mothers. I am passionate about working mothers. I am passionate about stay-at-home mothers. I am here for the women of Nebraska, and you all pretend to care. You pretend to want to protect us from our own decision-making. The pretense is over. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of men in this body acting like you know what's best for me and my girlfriends and my sisters and my daughters. I am so sick of you. It is disgusting that not a single pro-life man can get on the microphone and say this is wrong. Not a pro-life woman for that matter, but definitely not a pro-life man. Not a single pro-life man has gotten on the mic today or any day in the last 7 days and defended the need for a mother's room, and it is so disgusting and disappointing. But I guess that's who you all are. You talk out of both sides of your mouth all of the time. This is why people don't like politicians. You are not genuine. You say things, but you don't mean them. You don't live those values. This is a value that you should be living, but none of you are. I shouldn't be surprised after you all filibustered children with developmental disabilities, but somehow I just keep hoping against my better angels that,
1 minute.
thank you, against my better angels that I hate to give up hope on people. But you all are making it really hard to not give up hope on you. Really hard. You're pro-life? Say something. Stand up for women. Or stay silent and just be a talking point. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Kavanaugh. Members, Senator McKinney's motion on the floor is to advance the bill. I know I heard a request for a machine vote earlier. The question for the body is the advance of LB 14 to ENR initial. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted care to? Record, please.
44 ayes, no nays on the advancement of the bill.
LB 14 advances. Speaker Hilgers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, colleagues. Appreciate everyone's work today. We are near the end. I wanted to give you two updates. One really is the important one on scheduling. And with that regard, we're aiming for Thursday. So Thursday will be final reading. Thursday will be final reading of all the bills we just moved today. In order to get to Thursday and be ready for final reading, we have to have a layover day. So tomorrow will be a check-in only at 9 o'clock. Check-in only. We have nothing else on the agenda. In order to do that, we have to stand at ease today for a couple of hours while the work that we just sent up to the revisers comes back down. We need at least a quorum here. I know we've got far more than a quorum. I know some people have to leave. As long as we've got 25 here, there's no other official business is going to happen here on the floor today except when we adjourn and except for those bills when they come back down to be read across. So what will happen this week or from today through Thursday is I just need 25 to be in the building, be around, so we have a quorum. And then we will have those read across. We will adjourn. We'll come in tomorrow morning for a check-in only. That's it. And then we'll come in Thursday morning and we will have final reading of all the bills that we moved. The other thing I just want to mention is, and a couple of people have commented on this morning, or this afternoon. And I appreciate everyone's consideration of the way that the agenda has been drafted the last couple of days with allowing us some flexibility. We've had a lot of, as you've seen, a lot of these amendments come through LRO, go to the revisers. It's a very time-consuming process. We didn't know exactly what order things would be ready to go in, what items might have amendments. For final reading, we will have the explicit bill by bill agenda. So you will know in advance exactly the order of the bills, in what order they're coming, and explicitly, 1 through 7 or whatever the number is. So I just want to make clear on the record that you should expect that on Thursday. There won't be any sort of catch-all by the order of the speaker. It'll just be 1 through 7. With that, please, we're not done today. So if you can stay, please do. We're going to stand at ease for a couple hours while the revisers do our work. And after that, we'll see everyone tomorrow morning. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The legislature will stand at ease.